Was LA Comic Con a ripoff? I'm your brother from another mother, Evil Aniki, and today that is what we're talking about. I was on TikTok and I saw so many people ragging on LA Comic Con, and they were just talking about how much they didn't like it, and I totally understand that. As someone who's gone to LA Comic Con before, I know what I'm getting into. But if you're new to the convention, you might not be aware of the things that you should avoid and the things you should do. And also, guys, with big conventions like LA Comic Con, you need to have a battle plan. I never go into a 3 day event without a battle plan, especially if there are panels, and you just have to make sure you know what you're doing. So some of the big things I saw on TikTok that people were complaining about was number one is that Scientology had a booth inside the convention this year. I didn't like that. That's a huge red flag for me. They shouldn't be allowed to be in there. They did change their uniforms up to say red, and they didn't say Scientology anywhere in their booth, but they had the Dianetics or whatever it's called all over their shirts and stuff. And they also had a bunch of tables outside the convention center. And yeah, just huge, like so weird that they were even there. They shouldn't be allowed to be there. They have been trying to break into the convention center, not break in, but they've been trying to get into a lot of the conventions for a long time. I know previously I've had people walk around, trying to do surveys on the L. Ron Hubbard book covers, and that's just all just a mask for Scientology. But yeah, they shouldn't be there. That's a huge red flag. I don't know why LA Comic Con let them in. I think LA Comic Con was kind of struggling for some money this year, and we'll talk about that in a second. Another thing that people had issues with was the military and I'm not sure if it was the LAPD or if it was just the Beverly Hills Police Department, but there was a booth for the police department there, and people had issues with that. And I don't think that's too out of the normal. The military is at a lot of conventions; they do recruiting at a lot of conventions. People have always been like, "Oh, I can't believe they're recruiting at this like anime convention," because I think they were at Anime Expo as well. But like, it's just pretty normal for the military to be at a lot of conventions. I've been going to conventions for 10 plus years, and I've seen the military at so many events before, and they've been at LA Comic Con prior years, so it's not that strange. I know some people don't like it, but you know what? Suck it up, Buttercup, because they usually have a pretty big size like section, and this year it was actually pretty small. There wasn't that much military stuff going on. There usually is a pretty big size at LA Comic Con, so it was smaller than normal. The police department was small. I don't even think they were recruiting too much. Maybe they were just handing out pamphlets and stuff, but they were there. You kind of you'd almost miss them. Their booth was so small. There was also the LA Library was there. They had a big booth. They're always there. I mean, if you're gonna hate on the police department, then hate on the library, right? What's going on with that? But yeah, they're just usual convention like booth stuff. There was another issue, with the Stan Lee exhibit thing. I personally wasn't a fan of it. I'm not a fan of how they've been utilizing Stan Lee. I get that this LA Comic Con was Stan Lee's last big hurrah before he passed away, but at the same time, I don't like how they're like propping up his like social media to like market the event. They had him post like a cosplayer uh, a cost plan chart for the 3 days of the con, and I was just like, that's kind of tacky. You shouldn't be doing that. Stan Lee wasn't a cosplayer. I don't think he'd mind it if he was alive, but at the same time, it's kind of weird. And then also, they had the whole section at the event for his like AI avatar, and there's a lot of clips of people talking to like, or not talking, but be like looking at like a giant screen and like him talking, and it's really stiff and weird. But that wasn't the actual thing you paid for. The actual thing you paid for was like a tablet that was like this big off to the side, and you could like ask it questions, and you could be like, who is the best Spider-Man? And it was just like such a weird thing. And I don't like that, having to spend however much money you are to get into LA Comic Con and then spend money to go into a Stan Lee exhibit at the event is just kind of weird. I don't like how they use the AI stuff. Honestly, I saw some of the AI animation that they used for him. It was so stiff and cringy and just like weird. I'm not saying that we should I'd be fine if they had like a whole Stan Lee, memorial type thing going on, but just the AI thing is weird. Like, I hope when I pass away that people don't make an AI version of me and like drag me around to conventions when I'm dead, because that would be absolutely miserable. Uh, Rest in peace, Stan Lee. May you not have to. Man, thank God he didn't have to see all this AI shit, right? But moving on. There was some other issues with the event, such as there was an attendee who had brought like a little electric motorized car. Security got on him, and he wasn't allowed to drive it in the convention, so he had to drag it around. There's always a workaround for things like that. And then another big issue was midday on Saturday. The security was absolutely on one, and they said no more tripods and no more light stands for any of the photographers. So it was fine all day Friday. It was fine half of the day on Saturday, and then midday Saturday they were just like no more tripods, no more light stands, and so they had to break them all down. And people who were doing filming interviews and doing all that kind of stuff had to be moved outside. A lot of the photographers had to put all of their kits away into their little carts. I saw some people being kind of sneaky about it by keeping their lights folded up in their cart and they're sort of using the light in the cart. And then it was like that on the last day on Sunday as well. So security definitely on one. And then Artist Alley, a lot of people were complaining about Artist Alley, especially the artists in Artist Alley. They were saying, a lot of people were struggling to make their money back. I think the big thing with LA Comic Con is people want to spend money to come to the photo ops. So they're spending, if you're buying a 3-day pass, it's $110. And then on top of that, it's also like 250 for a photo op. So if you at that point, do they even have money left for Artist Alley? And this year, Artist Alley was located in the Kentia Hall. And if you don't know what the Kentia Hall is, it's where Anime Expo's Artist Alley usually is. So it's below the exhibit hall, and the exhibit hall, it's below the exhibit hall, and it's a parking lot usually. So most of the year, it's a parking lot, and sometimes they close it down to make it into an extra hall. And there is a tiny food court in there, but it is primarily, made to be a parking lot, and so it doesn't have the best airflow, and it's just kind of hidden. And so it was really big down there, and I will say I do think that played an effect into how much they invited a lot more Artist Alley guests than usual. So normally they don't have the Kent Deal Hall. I don't remember. Maybe they have had autograph signings down there before, but normally they don't have the Artist Alley down there. It's normally in the exhibit hall, and it's so weird that they moved them down there. They also had a lot more Artist Alley guests, and I think that might have also played an effect that there's more guests, so the money gets spread out, and I think that was an issue for a lot of vendors. I did see a lot of vendors who were there Friday and Saturday and then just skipped Sunday because they just, they made their table money back and they were like, we can't afford to, pay for convention food and travel at this convention. We just have to leave. And I think LA Comic Con kind of really got a lot of people flying in from Canada and out of state as well for this event. And it's just, it sucks to see. LA Comic Con, I think it was like, I think I heard something, it was like $500 for a table in Artist Alley, which is a lot. So, I mean, if they're not making $500 back in 2 days, that's pretty rough sales wise. And then this was the first year that Artist Alley was down there, and so a lot of the Artist Alley was kind of mad about that. Artist Alley was also split up, so in the West Hall where the Akiba station is, I loved Akiba station, by the way, that was probably my favorite part of the convention, but they had a mini Artist Alley over there, and then they also had a big Artist Alley down in the Kentia Hall, which was unmarked, by the way. You had to know that Kentia Hall existed, and you had to go down there to like find it, right? So there was like no one down there on Friday. And then Saturday it got pretty packed, and then Sunday it was, I don't think I went down in there on Sunday, but on Saturday it was crazy packed. And then that's a big issue as well. Having, because the smaller Artist Alley that was in the other hall was marked. They had a big hanging sign that said Artist Alley, and people thought that was the only Artist Alley, and it was very small. It was like maybe like 5 tiny rows, and then the big Artist Alley completely unlabeled. No one knew it was there. Again, super empty on Friday. I'll show you once I post my vlogs. You'll see me just like running through the halls. It was so empty. I will say on Saturday it was pretty packed, but at that point, they're already down so much on Friday sales that it's a bummer to see. I also, so a lot of artists were complaining about that they were down there, that it was unlabeled, and it just, they just weren't happy about it, because normally the Artist Alley is up in the exhibit hall off to the side, and yeah. But another thing with the Artist Alley is that when the convention ended, instead of having someone come through and usher people out, they just turned the lights off, and it wasn't like pitch black or anything, but that was their way to tell people convention's over, time to go home, is just by turning the lights off, which is a little weird. There were other issues. A lot of people were mad with the amount of bootlegs and third-party sellers at the event. and lack of like big booths in general. So I think personally that LA Comic Con has been sort of stepping down in terms of quality for the last 3 years, especially in the main exhibit hall. I will say Akiba Station did a great job. There was still a few bootleg booths over there, but in terms of like the main exhibit hall, previous years we've seen Webtoon, we've seen Hot Topic, we've seen a lot of bigger booths, and we just didn't really have that this year. I think the biggest booths we had were Kia, and they were there last year. But last year they had like League of Legends wraps on their cars, and this year they just had uh, LA Comic Con wraps, which is a little weird. When it's League of Legends, it feels like League of Legends is there, but I don't know. And then they also had the Universal booth, which I think was a little bit smaller this year, and then there was the Glitch Productions booth, which was a big hit, and people loved that. But completely surrounded that one was just a bunch of bootlegs. Funko didn't really have a Funko booth. They did, I think Funko did sponsor the event though, because they gave personalized Funkos to all the people, all the VIP, not VIP, all the guests that they interviewed on stages. They like all the celebrities they gave personalized Funkos to, so that was nice. But yeah, Funko didn't really have a presence at the convention. I've heard Funko is in big debt, money wise. Like apparently they're not doing so well. Don't quote me on that though. I could be wrong. I've just heard they're not doing so hot. But there was, that was part of it. I think my big issue is that the main exhibit hall just had so many third-party sellers. It's just like everywhere you go, it was just like Labubus and Pokemon cards and blind boxes. Like every three booths was a Labubu seller. And I like Labubus, but there should be a limit on how many Labubu booths you can have at an event. Uh, Specifically, and also the exhibit hall, they had mentioned they had broke so on their maps they'd also broken down, this section over here is anime, this section is comic books, and then like I went to the anime section and it was like barely anime. It was like Kinokuniya was there, and honestly I felt really bad for Kinokuniya should have been moved to the Akiba Station West Hall. I think they would have done much better over there. Maybe they were just trying to spread it out, but it was just really sad. Like I get that they're like a main exhibitor, but at the same time they just didn't fit into anything that was around them. Like all of the anime stuff that was in the main exhibit hall was just kind of meh, and it was just, man, it just kind of sucked. The main exhibit hall just really downhill this year. I feel like the main stage was also kind of downgraded. And then speaking of downgrades, there was no panels on Friday. They did not have any panels on Friday. They only had panels on Saturday and Sunday. And I feel like the number of panels has actually decreased as well. So that's a big bummer. And then of course, the big thing that the big elephant in the room that I haven't mentioned yet is if you walked around the convention, there was a bunch of banners. I shouldn't say banners, like floor banners that come up, and normally they say like, oh, go this direction to find this area or something, right? And the big issue with this time is that they had a giant QR code and it says, do you want to own a convention? And then you scan the QR code and it takes you to an option to purchase stocks of LA Comic Con, and I just was not a fan of that at all. In fact, let me actually pull that up because it was so crazy. Like, it just screams like, "Oh, we're broke. We need money. Please, please help. Please help." That's all I get out of it, and it's just not something I think is the best idea. But let me get my camera over here and bottom right. Okay, there we go. Transition. Boom. Okay, so here we are. This is the page that they're trying to raise their funds on. This is crazy. They're asking for a minimum investment of $300, and this is absolutely, I've never seen any convention do this before. And if you let's look at the rewards, because that's what people are going to care about. So if you order within the next 9 days, I'm going to post this day of, so this will be in the next 9 days. If you spend $300, you'll get a 15% lifetime discount on 6 tickets per hosted event. So basically every LA Comic Con you can get 15% off. And I did the math. I think it's like about, if you buy 6 weekend tickets, which is like $110, and you do that for 3 years in a row, and you buy 6 tickets for 3 years in a row, you'll save about $300. So if you're buying 6 tickets 3 years in a row, it's a good money saving tactic, I guess, because at that point you're in the green at that point, right? But yeah, they have all these other investment tiers with VVIP tickets and lanyards and stuff. I don't know what's all that about. Uh, doesn't seem to be like the best, perks, and I'm not too fond of it. They don't at the moment. They don't mention how much they've raised. Yeah, I don't think they even mention how much they've raised. But this is such a weird thing. To like even think about. Their shares are only 80 cents per share. I don't even know if this is a good deal. I'm gonna talk to someone and see if this is a good deal. They have been talking about like here like their attendance and stuff, and I think this year's attendance was probably higher than last year's. But I will say the event has gone down like quality wise, and I think yeah, it's just sad. Very very sad that this has happened. Um, I don't know how much money they're going to raise via this. I don't even know if this is going to do well. Uh, it's it's very interesting. Is there any? There's no comments on this yet. No one has left a comment on their fundraising page yet. So very awkward indeed. I'm curious to see what will happen with this. This kind of screams like, "Hey, we need money. Please, please, please save the convention." To me, and yeah, let me know what you guys think of that down in the comments below. Do you think they should be raising money like this? I think it's a little sketchy. They don't really make like a claim for how much money you're going to be able to save if this does anything. Like, the perks aren't that great. Like, I personally don't. Not many people buy 6 tickets per year, so it's not going to really help that many people, right? So you'd have to be a big ticket buyer to make this worth it, and I just don't think that's worth it because like who's ordering 6 tickets a year? Like that just doesn't help anyone, right? Like I don't know anyone who buys 6 tickets a year, because if you're coming in a group that large, you're probably a vendor, b uh you know like it doesn't make any sense. No one is buying 6 tickets a year. And it says per event, so maybe if they launch more events other than LA Comic Con, this could be an amazing deal. But at the moment, it's just LA Comic Con, so it's not that great of a deal. If they had other conventions under their label, would be such a good deal. But yeah, it's weird. But yeah, my opinion of the year, Akiba Station did a pretty good job, and then the rest of LA Comic Con has been floundering. There was no really big shows. So normally in like the cosplay lobby area, there's like some type of show. Sometimes they've done Marvel fashion runways and stuff like that, and usually there's shows in there. And this year they didn't have. I didn't come across any, and I was in there so many times, and I didn't see any big shows in there, and it was just kind of sad. I think they're really struggling. I did read on that one the equity page thing, the like whatever the fundraising page. It did say something about them being a 10-person crew. That seems really really small for how big their convention is. It just makes me. I love LA Comic Con. I've got a long history with LA Comic Con, but man, they have been going like it's been a downward decline the last like 3 years specifically. I think what happened is they grew really really fast, and then it's just been hard to maintain the level of quality that they need to hit to be that 3 day and potentially 4 day con. I would love to see them move into being a 4 day con. They do get some good celebrity talent over the years. Like last year, they had the Back to the Future, Michael J. Fox and the Doc Brown guy, and then the year before that, I think they had the Lord of the Hobbits. So they had like Elijah Wood and the rest of the Hobbits. And they've had many great guests, and it just makes me sad that they don't. Uh, yeah, I don't know. But I know a lot of people were mad about this, and so I'm just sort of talking about this before I put up my vlog. I will be posting a vlog this week, so be excited for it. I still have a lot of other videos that I need to do. I need to post my cosplayer video from not LA Impulse, Anime Impulse, Anime Impulse, Orange County. So be on the lookout for that. And then I went to a train festival. I need to put out that. And then I went to a few other events during LA Comic Con. I went to a Zenless Zone Zero event, and I went to a Pokemon event. Those are going to be shorter videos, so stay tuned for that. But I'm going to leave it there, guys. Let me know what you guys thought of LA Comic Con this year. Was it worth it for you? $110 for a 3 day weekend ticket is very pricey when you look at, compared to like an Anime Impulse, which is like $45 for a 2 day. It's over 3 times the price for just an extra day. But I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Bye.